What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and in this video I am super excited because this guy, the 1987 MR2, is finally getting the TLC that it deserves. This thing has been sitting in my garage for probably the last 3 years now, pretty much undrivable because the brake system started getting a little sketchy on me. It is finally time to make a game plan for this car, figure out what we're going to do with it. And the first thing we're going to do starting in this video is we're going to take care of the front brakes. Among other things, it needs the rear brakes looked at. Pretty much the whole brake system needs an overhaul. Master cylinder is leaking in the front there and eating away all the paint in the base of the front, which is cool. Also not uncommon for these cars. And then we are also going to get all this crap cleared off of it, oil change, air filter change, and yeah, a much needed wash. So I am looking forward in the coming weeks to getting this thing back on the road. Now I say coming weeks, this is a pretty much a night project for me once my full-time job is over, my other full-time job of raising kids is over, and everything, all the house responsibilities are taken care of. Then we finally get time to work on this guy. So it's going to take some time, but we'll get there. Hopefully we won't run into too many issues with rust. I know, well, now that I said that, I probably jinxed myself, but yeah, we're probably going to run into some issues with rust because this thing is 99% original. It's been sitting for several years since before I bought it. So I'm sure we're going to be fighting some rusty bolts, but we're going to pull the calipers off the car. I'm going to show you how to disassemble them. And I'm pretty excited because I haven't rebuilt a caliper since I first took automotive classes like 15 years ago. So anywho, we're going to put them back together, and then I'm going to show you throwing them back on the car. We're going to throw new hoses on. So without further ado, let's get started. So this is the Caliper Rebuild kit that I'm using. This comes from Frentech in the UK. This cost me about 130 bucks off of eBay a couple of years ago. I don't think the price has changed much since, but this is looking pretty complete. I love what I'm seeing. We've got caliper pistons here for front and rear. We've got reseal kits for every single caliper. Everything's individually packaged for each caliper, which is nice. And we've got just about everything we need here. The square cut seal for the piston itself, the dust boot, and then all the dust boots for the caliper slides. Pretty much everything you need. I think all the rubber on here is all included. And then what I really like on the side here is we have new bleeder screws. We have these snap rings, which I believe are for the rear caliper for the parking brake mechanism. But we also have all of our included lubricants, and they have that individually marked. So we have one individually here for the silicone grease, for all the external, like the slide pans, all the boots, things like that. And then a different grease here just for the square cut seal and the pistons for installing that. So it's kind of nice that they have that all separated out and individually marked. There's really not a whole lot of questions going into it, so I'm feeling really good about this kit, and I'm excited to see how it works out. All right, so here we are on the right front caliper. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm probably going to be bouncing between the left and the right side. Apologies in advance, but pretty much anything you see on this side is going to apply to the other side. It's all the same. It's just mirrored, obviously. So we got 2 small bolts, maybe 12 or 14, and then I think we've got 17s holding the bracket to the knuckle assembly there. So let's go ahead and get everything disassembled, and we'll go from there. So that one feels pretty good, but that bottom one's feeling sketchy. I don't know if I want to try my luck with that. We might just go ahead and take the whole thing off as a whole assembly. I think I had to do that on the other side, which means we're going to be taking these, where is it? This guy and the one down below it off. And then all this is going to come off. We can heat this on the bench if we have to, because the last thing I want to do is break these bolts and end up having to go to the dealer to get replacements. So these 2 caliper bracket bolts did give me quite a bit of a fight. I don't want you guys to think I'm getting off too easy on this now, but we did get them free, thankfully. I was worried we might have to torch them. All right, so those 2 bolts are pretty much out all the way. Before I take them out completely, we're going to go ahead and clamp off our brake hose, and then we are going to loosen the banjo nut here and take that hose off the caliper. And then once that's off, we're free to completely remove it from the vehicle. Wow, that brake fluid smells absolutely rancid. I know this hasn't been flushed in a while, but wow, that smells like cat pee. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I've never smelled brake fluid like that before. Oh, anyway, let's go ahead and get this caliper off. So with the brake caliper on the bench, the first thing I can tell you guys right now is it looks like we have one of our washers here got left behind. Let's go ahead and scrape that off with the razor blade. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a plug to put in that hole. And I guess it doesn't matter now because we're going to be rebuilding this thing. We're going to be tearing it apart, cleaning the inside out. We get a little dirt in there. It's not the worst, but yeah, you try to want to keep everything as clean and sterile as possible when you're working on these. All right, so this longer bolt of the two is actually spinning pretty freely, but this one here it's moving, but it feels like it's stuck. And I feel like if I keep pushing this one, it's gonna break. So what I wanna do, and I had to do this on the other side, I think with the same bolt, is we're gonna heat up this area, free up those threads, and hopefully expand the area enough where we can pull this bolt out without doing any damage. Now the only downside is we have this rubber boot here. So that's going to have to get cut away because once that catches fire, that's going to stink up the whole garage and probably the whole house. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and cut that off with a razor blade. So I did reconfirm in my new rebuild kit. It looks like we have all new boots, so I'm not really heartbroken about having to cut this one out. Looks like we've got 4, so there's 1 on each side of each pin. So that's pretty cool. They're all the same size, so there's no getting them confused. So of course, she's going to come off in pieces, it looks like. All right, so I've got as much of the boot off as I can. There's a little bit left behind, so we're going to get a little smoky, but not nearly as bad as if we had left it all on. I might try to cut out the rest of this just to keep it absolutely minimal. So cool, time to grab the torch. Oh, that's moving a little better now. There we go. Okay. Beautiful. So we're going to come back to the caliper bracket later. There's really not a whole lot that needs to be done here. First thing I'm going to do is pull the pads out and make a note if you're reusing the old pads. You'll have on the inner one, there's a circular impression here from the caliper piston. And then the outside, you'll see this kind of fang looking thing from the caliper there. So I'd like to throw a set of fresh pads and rotors on this, but it's not really in the budget right now. And these have a ton of life left on them, so I'm going to give them a run this summer and see how they do. But we're going to go ahead and pop those out, set them aside. The main game plan for this bracket is going to be to pop these shims out, and then we're going to run everything down with a wire wheel. I used to love sandblasting these back in the day, but I don't have access to a sandblaster anymore. So wire wheel is going to have to do for now, but we're going to go ahead and throw that off to the side. And we're going to focus our main attention on the caliper itself. So the main thing I want to know for sure is if this caliper piston's seized. And I don't think I have an issue on this side. The other side, it was pretty stuck. But I kind of just want to know what I'm getting into. So I got this this bar here. This is like a, what is this? This is a lever from my old Grand Am I used to own for the rear parking brakes, or the rear brake drums. So we're going to go ahead and use that with our compression tool. And that piston's not really putting up a huge fight, so it looks like we're going to make it out pretty easy on this caliper. Yeah, we're good. So now we can go ahead and disassemble the slides. So this one's just going to be as easy as popping it out. And that doesn't look too bad. We've got new rubber boots, like I said, so we're going to go ahead and pry these out. What's left of this one. If you don't remember, that's the one we cut up before we started torching. That's all that's left of it. And this one, go ahead and pry that bad boy out. Now this one, this slide is feeling pretty stuck. So we might have to heat this up to work that one out. I'm not really sure yet. I'm going to play with it and see what happens. Before we resort to heat, let's see if we can't press it out with our vise here. Oh yeah, she's moving. We're good. Too easy. Oh, I see that now. Hold on. Nice. You can see not a lot of rust, but there's some rubber residue. I wonder if maybe that bushing started wearing down over time. But we're going to go ahead and clean up all this hardware, all these slide pin bushings, the pins themselves, especially the threads where we had to heat up to release the one. And then once I pull these boots out, the bores are all going to get cleaned here. I'm going to take a wire wheel to the entire exterior of this thing. And then we're going to go ahead and pop this boot off, and the piston's going to come out too. We'll get to that in a little bit. So the next piece to come out is this little bushing inside of here. I've actually never worked on a caliper where I've seen that before. Granted, I've never really had to tear down a caliper to this extent, or at least not in a long time. So I don't know if you can see it in there. I think it's like a metal steel bushing, but that's going to come out because we want to hit the bore real quick inside there with a wire brush and clean it out. So I'm going to take a socket that's about the same size, and we'll just tap it right out. So before I open up the caliper piston here, I'm going to want to get rid of the majority of this dust and, rust and dirt and grime that's been built up. So we want to reseal this caliper the best we can. I know we're not going to be perfect as far as keeping dirt out of this thing, but the more we keep out, the better for long-term health of this thing. So I'm going to make sure this bleeder screw is tightened down. Actually, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. We want to make sure this comes loose, because if this doesn't come loose, we'll probably have to, yeah, that's good. We'd have to heat it up otherwise and torch it out. So I have this dummy plug from an old brake line. I'm going to go ahead and use that. That's the same thread and everything, so that works perfect. And I'll just kind of make sure no dust enters in from that way, because we're going to be... So as you can see, we knocked off all the rust and grime that we could. I got this set of wire wheels from Amazon for pretty cheap. They seem to get the job done okay. Someday I'd like to get a blast cabinet, sandblast cabinet, that really eats all this stuff off. But for now, we're gonna have to deal with this. Hit it with some sandpaper real quick just to get it prepped for painting. After that, we're going to open it up, replace the caliper piston. And then after that, we're gonna hit it with some mineral spirits or acetone just to strip any oils or anything that's on there to prep the caliper for paint. I might have said earlier, one of the last things we want to do is clean these bores for the slide pin and that bushing. If you have a circular wire brush that would go in there like on a drill, that'd probably be a good thing to do. What I'm going to use is a Scotch-Brite just because I don't have anything like that right now. So I'm just going to roll that up and we'll just spin it around in there, kind of work it back and forth just to make sure there's no rust or any debris hanging up any of the works. So the last step before painting, we gotta get this caliper piston out. If yours is in pretty good shape like this one is, you could probably get a pair of pliers, maybe some vice grip, and grab it on the piston here itself, especially if you're replacing it. You wanna be careful if you're reusing this piston, because you don't want to gouge it up too bad. But you could probably work it back and forth. Or here's another trick that I learned. This is my favorite way to do it. We're going to take a piece of wood. I have some leftover baseboard here from a recent project. I'm going to remove the plug here from where the brake line goes, and we're going to use compressed air and basically mimic brake fluid. So we're going to push that piston right out. You can let it rip if you want to. I'm probably going to nurse mine out just to kind of lessen the drama, but you'll see what we're trying to get at. There it is. And if it's come out this far, it should just wiggle out by hand. We will have to work it out of the boot there. There's our old piston. You can see there's some really grimy looking brake fluid on there. That's the old stuff. That's, you know, this little debris that you see there, that's all stuff that's hanging out inside the caliper. So we're going to give it a good cleaning inside and out. I'm not seeing like a ton of pitting. There is some rust buildup, probably why they're hanging up a little bit. The left front was really bad. This is the right front caliper here, so the left front was really bad. It was hanging up. There's a lot more buildup on the piston there, but this one's not looking too bad. But we're going to go ahead and replace it anyway since I have a new one. So to get this boot out for the piston itself, this is the new one here. You see there's this little wire clip. This tucks into the outer ledge of the boot there. It's kind of weird. It's kind of a tight fit, but just so you can kind of picture what we're getting at. So if we peel back the boot, you can see that little wire in there. That's what we're after. I am just trying to find an edge. Maybe my pick would be a better tool to get in there. Okay, so I finally found the end here at the bottom. I got an edge started on it, so we're just going to go ahead and pry that out. There we go. Okay, there's our old lock ring, and now the boot itself might be rusted in there a little bit, so we're going to have to kind of play around with it. But this is another instance where if we can get an edge started, then we should be home free. Here we go. There's our edge. This is very crusty. Look at that. There's our boot out. I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's a ton of, try to get a good angle on there. There is a ton of sludge built up in the bottom of this caliper. This is why it's good to do brake flushes at least semi-frequently. I don't know if you have to do them necessarily once a year, but at least once in a while. I don't think the fluid's been flushed out of this thing in years. But we've got a good, let me see if I can swab it out of here. Oh yeah, look at that. So that's the kind of stuff you're looking to keep out of your caliper as the years go on by flushing out the fluid regularly. So the last part to come out before we can do a full cleanup on the inside here is a square cut seal. This is our main hydraulic seal that actually allows the piston to hold brake fluid and do its job. So we're going to go ahead and pry that and take that out. There's a little bit of rust on the inside of that lip there. So we're going to want to get rid of that. I'm going to say we're just going to very lightly kind of scrape it off. I might try to get Scotch-Brite in there. We don't want to gouge or get too crazy with this because this is a sealing surface for that square cut seal. If we make any kind of deep nicks or anything like that, we could allow a spot where brake fluid could bypass the seal and it may not seal up right. So we're going to be real gentle with that. And then I also have to clean this outer lip here where the boot sits, or else we're going to have not a great seal to the environment. Maybe some water could leak in there over time. So I'm going to go ahead and work on that now, and then once we're done, I'll blast this out with some brake clean and we should be good to paint. Okay, so we've cleaned this up to the best of our abilities. What we're going to do now is wipe it down with some mineral spirits. You can use acetone. Don't use brake cleaner because it does have a residue that it leaves behind. It can actually prevent the paint from properly adhering to the caliper. So we'll go ahead and wipe it down with a lint-free cloth. I'm going to go ahead and pack the bores here, and inside the piston cylinder bore there.
All right, once we're confident we've hit all the surfaces on there that we're going to be painting, we'll go ahead and dry it off with our blowgun. Okay guys, so we're fully prepped now. I've got bleeder screw back in just to keep that covered up. I went ahead and taped off this area. That plug isn't good enough because I need this whole area kind of free and clean for that copper washer to seal properly. So I've got tape over there, and then we've cut around it to get rid of the excess. We've got some packing inside the bores here. Nice wire to hang our caliper once it's done being painted. And then I've packed the cylinder bore. I put tape along the inside there where I don't want the sealing surfaces to get paint. And then I've also packed paper towel inside of there to kind of fill the gap. So we're looking pretty good. And I almost forgot, we're going to do the same thing for our bracket. I'm not going to show that. We're just going to go ahead and hit it with the wire wheel, sand it down real quick, and then hit it with the mineral spirits just like we did here. And that one will be ready for paint as well. So I got that bad boy hanging up to dry. I'm using this VHT caliper paint. I saw a lot of good things about it online, so I figured I'd give it a shot. It's cheap enough, and it looks like it doesn't require a whole lot of prep. I've heard people just throwing these on rusty rotors or rusty calipers without doing any of this prep, but I figured more work we put in now, hopefully the longer it lasts. So I hit it with one light to medium coat, let it dry for a little bit, and then we'll throw a second heavier coat on. I think I'm gonna call it good with that. All right, so here's our caliper in bracket after painting. We've only done 2 coats of the VHT caliper paint, and I'm loving the way it's come out. I didn't go crazy with the prep. I would love to have had a sandblaster to really get all the rust off, but honestly, like, this looks great, and the coating's really stout on it. Like, it's not going anywhere. So I love how this has turned out. I'm really happy. I'm hoping to have the same level of success on the other 3 calipers. So we're going to take all the protective stuff off, all the masking tape and the wadding here, and we're going to go ahead and reassemble this caliper. So first after reassembly, we're going to take our square cut seal, grease it up with the appropriate grease from our kit. That's going to go on the inside groove here, and then we're going to grease up our piston, get that started inside the square cut seal. All right, just to show you guys, square cut seal is in all the way around. Had to fight it just a little bit to get it all stuffed in the channel there, but we're good to go. So we've got our new caliper piston here. I got some grease on here. I'm going to go ahead and throw a little more grease on. And I think what I'm going to do, I think I remember this in the past, we're going to go ahead and get the boot on first. So that's one less thing we have to wrestle with once it's back in the piston, or back in the caliper. And then once this is greased up, we should be good to just push it right back on in, and we'll be right on our way. So yeah, boots on all the way. It's sitting right in the channel there on the piston. So let's see if we get lucky and get this caliper piston in all the way. Nice. That went almost a little too smooth. I'm not going to jinx it, but I'm happy about that. Next step, we're going to have to stuff the outer part of the boot here into that channel. So this might be a little tricky because I think this is all under tension here, but here, maybe what I'll do is we'll start it on the back side towards the top of the caliper. There we go. And I can wrestle with the hardest part here on the outside where I can actually get to it. So overall, that boot's looking pretty good. There's a couple spots you can see, like here and here. I'm going to take my screwdriver just ever so slightly because I don't want to damage the boot or puncture it, but we're just going to kind of reseat it a little bit. There we go. I might just run along this whole seam here. That's looking solid. I'm super excited about that. All right, so now that boot and the piston are back in, we have our new ring here. This is gonna sit right inside. I don't even know if I can show that to you guys. That's gonna sit right in here. So that's gonna be fun to fight that back into place, but I think once that's done, we're pretty much home free. So I got an edge starter. We're just gonna work our way around, tucking this in. Just trying to get a little wonky on me here. Again, I want to use my screwdriver to kind of coerce it into place, but I don't want to poke the boot. All right, so I had to fight with that boot a little bit. I think it was worth it in the long run to get it to fit perfectly, but yeah, I had to take off the boot and reseat it 2 or 3 times. But as you can see, it's looking pretty uniform all the way around. There's this little kind of kink here. I think that's just because it's under pressure. But yeah, no, I'm feeling pretty good about that. And then the piston is coming out just a hair. You can see that's all seated all the way around. So we'll go ahead and push that piston back in. Now, the remainder is pretty easy. We have these metal bushings that we removed. Those are going to sit about right here. So we're going to go ahead and grease those up with the silicone slide grease. Stuff those back in their bores. I've taken the liberty of cleaning off the outside edges of these slide pin bushings. And yeah, so those are nice and smooth. I'm going to go ahead and grease those up. They're going to sit right inside the bushings like so. But before those go in, so we got these metal sleeves going in. Then we're going to grease up these boots. These are going to go in like so. This little collar here is actually going to sit inside this beveled part, so it's going to kind of sit like that. And the nice part is all 4 of these boots look like they're the same, so it doesn't matter which one goes where. As long as they all find a home, we're good to go. Doesn't want to go on that way. Let's try. There we go. We'll try the other way. There we go. That's getting it. So I'll put a very fine layer here on these boots just to kind of help ease them into place. Get my pinky in there, try to seat it all. Maybe twist it around. Actually, that's looking pretty good. Sweet. 1 down, 3 to go. So what I think I'm going to do, because this is a super tight fit once these boots are inside here at the bore here, I'm going to leave one side out. We're going to grease up the pins, slide them just past like so, just enough where I can sneak in the boot on the other side, and then we'll go ahead and reseat them. It's a very tight fit, but once we get it started, it's not too bad. Alright, so that is just passed. Go ahead and put this boot in. Get that seated. And then we'll bring the bushing back if it will go. Alright, so I had to use my bench vise to kind of press this back into place, but as you can see, that is in. Boots are sealed, and we got some pretty good movement there. So that one's done. Let's go ahead and hit the other one. Alright, so with everything pretty much assembled, all we gotta do is swap out this bleeder screw. I like to double check, make sure everything's the same size. It's actually looking pretty spot on. So we got a new bleeder screw, new dust boot to go on that bleeder screw. And we're gonna go ahead and reattach this to the caliper bracket. And this is going back on the car. I'm gonna use just a little bit of blue thread lock right here on the threads for these bracket bolts. This will kind of help keep it locked in place so nothing comes apart under vibration from normal braking. Believe it or not, I have had that happen before. But in addition, this is also going to provide a little bit of corrosion protection. So hopefully we won't have to deal with any seized bolts in the future. Now I know there's a lot of different schools of thought on this as far as torquing down bolts. Honestly guys, as long as they're nice and good and tight, I'm happy with it. We don't want to over tighten them to the point where anything breaks, but we don't want them loose obviously where they're going to back out. So we're just going to do them nice and snug by hand. And then let's get our brake pads back in their homes. Have to push the slide pins back inward towards the car a little bit just to get some clearance, but there's our caliper. Same thing here with the hardware. We'll put a little bit of blue thread lock on there, and we're just going to snug them up by hand, and we should be good. And just for last, we'll take our caliper and shake it back and forth. You can see everything is moving real nice now, a lot better than it was before. All right, guys, so this is the part I've been dreading. I always have a pretty rough time with these brake lines going into the hoses, but these are pretty old hoses. You can see they're starting to crack apart a little bit. I don't know when they were replaced last, so I figured they're cheap enough. I got a set of all four, and we'll go ahead and replace them. So I'm gonna hook up the new hose to our freshly rebuilt caliper here. We're gonna get everything in place, get it attached to the strut, and I'm gonna make this connection the very last because I kind of want to hot swap them to prevent losing a ton of fluid. We're gonna bleed the car anyway, all four wheels, and put a new master on it, but I figured the less work we create for ourselves, the better. Almost every time I've done brake hoses on vehicles, one of these has given me trouble, and this tube nut here, this is the brake line coming from the body. This tube nut always seizes either inside the hose or on the back side of the line there. So almost every car I've replaced hoses on, I usually end up leaving one of these alone because it's more trouble than I want to get into. So we're going to go ahead and try to crack this free. One thing I've noticed is that the mount here where it's welded to the body is kind of soft. So between it being rusted and not wanting to break this tab off, we're gonna have to kind of caress it out a little bit. Now, sometimes tightening it just a hair will kind of help start the process. I'm just kind of bobbing this back and forth a little bit just to kind of do some little micro shocks on the threads there. Oh, that bracket's real soft. Okay, so it's not really budging right now. This is just sketchy enough. I think I'm gonna put heat on it just to kind of save ourselves some headaches. I don't really have the option of not replacing these because this car is so old. So we're gonna grab the torch and buckle up. I can't believe I got this lucky, but I did torch this, not a whole lot, because I don't know if you guys saw this undercoating was starting to kind of burn off a little bit, and I don't want to stink up the house. So we sprayed it with a little PB blaster afterwards, and I went back to kind of rocking it back and forth, and I think we got super lucky, because that is starting to spin. And not only that, but it's not taking the brake line with it, because I've seen sometimes where this will break free from the hose, but it's still hanging on pretty tight to the brake line, and you don't want to twist that because it'll break the, tear the brake line apart, then you got to replace it. So I'm just going to keep working this back and forth until we got some nice movement on it. I'm trying to keep all this intact because the last thing I want to do is run brake lines right now. So wish me luck. The big thing you want to do in this case is really work it back and forth. You don't want to just go and send it once you get it a little bit loose, because you want to break free all this rust and everything. We lost some of that anti-corrosion coating on the line there, but it's whatever at this point. That stuff's got to be, what, 40 years old? 50? 40? 40 years old now. So yeah, that's pretty much loose, finger loose now, so yeah, we're ready to replace this hose. Only other thing really to note is these clips holding the brake hose into the strut and the body here. Those are just as simple as prying those out. Now I like to kind of work these around too a little bit, kind of pry in both directions, because we don't want those to turn into a headache either. Everything we can do, if I spend a little extra time to save ourselves some headache down the line, we're going to do it. If you really want, you can replace these clips. This one's pretty crusty. I think I've got some laying around, but who knows where they are, so I'll probably just reuse these old ones for now. And then sometimes these hoses like to stick in their brackets, so we'll just go ahead and give it a whack. And there she was. So real quick before we replace the brake hose, we want to make sure we have both of our old copper washers here accounted for, because sometimes they can stick to old parts and we'll get a double seal and then it won't seal up properly. It'll start getting fluid leaking the second you go to hit the brakes. So I thought I had both of them off, but I realized I only have one washer sitting here. So I'm looking at this bolt, it looks okay, but I ended up taking this razor blade. Let's see if we can catch an edge here. There it is, there's our second washer. So that one was hiding on us, and that would have been not good when I went to go hit the brakes on our new caliper. So there you go. Always keep an eye out, always check all the surfaces, the bolt, the caliper, and the hose itself, and see if you got anybody catching a ride. I hope you guys can still follow along with what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of going for it. Alright guys, so I went ahead and installed the hose. I got the clip on up here. went and snugged that all up so we'd stop dripping and losing fluid all over the place. But I'm a little frustrated, I'm not gonna lie, because I went to go lock the hose into the tab here on the strut, and I don't know if you can see this, but basically have a flat on this side, a flat on this side, and then it's round on the other two sides. So what that's supposed to do is kind of lock in like a key into this opening here, but I don't know if you can see that. It's indexed like 90 degrees off. So if I twist the hose to line those up to the point where this will actually sit in that bracket, we're starting to kink our hose down here, and that's no good. It's either gonna cut off circulation, or if it doesn't do that, it's gonna wear prematurely, and I don't want to have a hose blown out of me while I'm driving. And the other problem too is once we get this down in the bracket, there's not enough room to get my clip back in. I have tried every which way, but there is just not, they just didn't give me enough of a gap. So this is the second time I've been burned by a hose from Sunsong. I'm not really sure I want to give them a third try, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to ship all these back, get a different brand, and see what kind of luck we have from there. So here we are a week later. I sent my Sunsong hoses back and replaced them with these Centrics. These are looking a lot better. The only thing that I don't like is that they didn't come with any of the copper washers I showed you guys. We absolutely have to replace those every time we do a brake hose, or else it's just not going to seal right. So I guess my first question, we have to find out, how is this going to mount? Is this going to give us the same issues the other ones did? Or are we going to be in a little better shape? So let's go ahead and route that through the bracket there. Oh, that's golden, look at that. So our hose is going to line up pretty much perfectly with the caliper, and it's sitting real nice in that bracket where it's supposed to be. There's no twisting at all. And my next question is the clip going to start? Yes, it is. That's awesome. I like seeing that. So that's what I was hoping to see the first time around, instead of having to mess around with twisting the hose. Or I've had some instances where I've had to grind these brackets down or grind this washer down just to get enough clearance to get the clip in here. And I've seen people, I would never do this, but I've seen people even resort to just zip tying the hose to the bracket there just to call it a day. So I'm happy we don't have to do that. It looks like we're good to go ahead and throw these centric hoses in. Now, because this didn't come with new washers for the banjo bolt, I had to go and get this box off of Amazon. This is about 11 bucks, pretty much the cheapest option. I wanted to go to a local parts store and just be done with it, but they're charging 6 bucks for 2 washers. I paid 11 bucks for 150. Granted, they're all in different sizes, but I am sure that there is something in here that's going to fit our needs. I'm thinking maybe these guys right here. So I've got the banjo bolt with the washer already on it. Those actually feel like a charm. We'll throw another washer on. Go ahead and start threading that into the caliper. Make sure to put this little clip thing, whatever this is, in its hole. Just to give you guys a little better look, so I do have the banjo bolt snugged down. We have that little horseshoe thing in its spot there, this indexing clip, whatever that thing is. So that's snugged down. This is sitting properly oriented in the bracket there, and it's locked in with the tab. And this hose, if you guys can see, we have flats on either side, and then it's rounded in the front. So we're going to match that up with this hose, and it looks like it's going to take very minimal twisting to get it there. There's no kinks or anything like that, so I really like seeing that. This is going a lot better than last time. So I'm going to go ahead and hot swap these hoses out while we're dripping fluid, and I'll show you guys once we're done. So there we have it, guys. Just to review, we have our brake line snug at the top there of the hose, brand new hose secured with a clip at the body and at the strut. We have 2 new copper washers mounting the new hose to our rebuilt caliper. Everything has been snugged down hardware-wise at the caliper itself, including our bleeder screw. We don't want it oozing out brake fluid just yet. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and cover bleeding in a different video because we're going to replace a master cylinder, and we're going to let all the brake fluid out anyway. That being said, thanks again so much for watching this video. I hope you guys found it helpful. And if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Check out the channel, subscribe if you want. I'm hoping we're going to have a lot more videos on this MR2. Hoping to get on the road very soon, and I'm very excited.
But until then, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.